Welcome everyone to our Forever Buffs Faculty Spotlight Q&A featuring CU Boulder computer science professor Danny Digg. We hope you all had an opportunity to watch Danny's short video about the new PPI Center and his research around the Internet of Things. We have a fun opportunity to be able to ask Danny some questions through Zoom right now. For our viewers, if you look to the bottom of your screen, you should see a Q&A button. Please use that button to submit questions at any point during this session, and we'll do our best to get through as many of your questions as we can today. And I'd now like to introduce our facilitator, Ken Anderson, professor and chair of the Department of Computer Science at CU Boulder. In his tenure to date, Professor Anderson has led many student success efforts within the college, with 3 of those efforts having campus-wide impact, including the course alert process, the grade replacement policy, and the use of predictive analytics for student success. So I'd like to welcome Ken and Danny, and with that, I will let them take it away.
Great, thank you, Brennan. So as Brennan said, I'm Ken Anderson. I'm the Department Chair of Computer Science, and it's my pleasure today to introduce Professor Danny Digg. Danny and I have known each other for quite some time. We both work in a research area that's broadly known as software engineering, and have had many interactions over the years while we were based at various institutions. And so Danny is a new professor here at computer science at CU Boulder, but has been a professor for many years and has maintains positions at the University of Illinois and Oregon State, and has done a lot of research in an area known as interactive program transformation or refactoring, and has been a leader in that area. And more recently has been focused on looking at the ways in which the world is changing with respect to the Internet of Things, the fact that we have sensors everywhere in many, many different types of machines, the increase and progress being made in machine learning, and how machine learning and that can be brought into collaboration with and leverage all of the data being produced by these sensors. And yes, I do hope you had a chance to watch the video in which he talked about his latest effort, which is a center known as the PPI Center, or Personalized Pervasive Intelligence Center, which has in partnership with faculty at Oregon State University, and has many industrial partners that we'll maybe perhaps talk about and feature a little bit later in our discussion. And so what I wanted to start out with today was to first thank Danny I liked the way you started your video with your own personal story and how that led you on that path from transforming from a ladder climber to a ladder holder. I like that analogy quite a bit. I thought it was a very powerful message, basically for your personal life and basically all aspects of a person's life, both professional and personal. And before I ask you my first question, I just wanted to have you have a chance to introduce yourself and maybe respond to that, and then we'll move forward.
Yeah, right, Tom. Thank you so much, Ken, for the introduction, and Brennan and Maggie, and of course, all our alumni and the parents for being with us today. It's today we want more than forever to be together, and it's even more important to be together, especially in times of physical distancing. We need to be socially closer, not socially distant, but socially safe through the internet, through Zoom, and all this. We need to be socially closer rather than be socially physically distanced. And yeah, that's my story of transformation, and I hope that it could be a story of crisis, and it's about how do you turn adversity and how do you turn a crisis. In my case, was a personal crisis. How do you not get beaten down by the crisis, but how do you turn that crisis and so that it changes you? It changes you to do better in the world and to help other people. And for me, up to that point, it was all about my career, and that crisis has helped me to focus towards others and help others. And I've been working with industry even before, but the crisis has helped me to help our faculty and lots of my colleagues who didn't have such a focus on industry as I had before, to help them to embrace these collaborations with industry. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay, and I'd like to start the question and answer by asking you to share just a bit about your own research in this area. I think you established a great overview in the video for the need of smart IoT and personalized pervasive intelligence. But what was some of your own kind of research accomplishments that brought you here? And just as kind of a tidbit for our audience, I know that as part of your research, Danny has developed both code and techniques that have been integrated into the software tools that literally millions of software developers use. So I know you have huge impact in your research. So I thought I'd start by having you feature some of that, and then we can go to the center.
Yeah, right on. So as Ken mentioned in my research, I've been working with Microsoft, with Android, with Google, with other major software tool providers for different programming platforms for Java and C Sharp. And my research is about how can we make the programmer more productive. And we were looking at more than 90% of the software development cost are not, people think about, oh, it's the cost of writing the software, but it's not where the bulk of the cost is. If you look at over the life cycle of a software, but are the cost about, okay, I have a version of the software that is working, but I need continuously to evolve and to maintain and to improve, to make it more performant, to fix bugs, to support new hardware, new programming system, to support new smartphones. And so all that evolution, it's the bulk, it's 90% of the software development cost. So in my research, we've been automating some of those changes that programmers do with software tools to automate some of those, everyday, continuously evolving software changes. So the transition from, this is what we've been doing for general software now, as we started to work with the industry and look at this Internet of Things and the smart sensors around us that connect on intelligence and the machine learning and artificial intelligence that is going to take all that insight and is going to augment and improve our intelligence. It was very clear that software developers and data engineers have a really hard time evolving also their software systems as they are based on machine learning components. So my research group in the last couple of years have been starting to look at how can we support, what's the kind of tool support that we can offer to people who are using these machine learning frameworks and libraries and other components from Google and from other software providers, so that they can continuously evolve. And their problem is even worse now because it's beyond just evolving regular software with updating to new library version, new components. Now you have the evolution constraints from two other directions, like the data evolves and also the machine learning models evolve. So it's even more demand on the software or the data engineer to evolve not only their code, but also their data and models. So that's my research in the center. It's how do we come up with tools to take average software engineers or data engineers and make them uber productive, super productive with the help of some software tools.
That's excellent. So my next question is that I know you've assembled a great team of faculty to work on these topics, covering all the topic domains that you showed in your slides. And I know that you just finished hosting a series of launch events for the center, which directly engaged your industry partners. So my question is, how did your industry partners perhaps surprise you with the ideas they wanted to pursue with your center? Or how have they pushed you maybe in a direction of new topics that you weren't anticipating? So just kind of a comment on what you've gotten so far from the interactions.
Yeah, no, right, John. So the interactions with the industry, it's truly the biggest gain for us in academia is when we stay grounded in the industry, then we get informed about real world problems. So on one hand, industry has been informing us about real world problems that are more important to them, that we have a blind spot that we don't necessarily see, right? The other way how they've been pushing us is by, we just finished, as Ken mentioned, Wednesday was our last public event. We had 5 virtual events in the launching of this NSF Industry University Consortium. And what they've been telling us, we've been pitching these project proposals and say, this is how we think we are going to provide value and we are going to serve the industry. And they say, well, this works, but not quite. So you need to tweak here or go left or go right. So that feedback and that interaction, and we have a formal process from the National Science Foundation. So it's feedback both verbally and also formally written in some evaluation forms. So that feedback is extremely useful for us and for our faculty. And they've been telling us that some problems that we didn't consider are more important to industry, or or our approach, we need to tweak, and we need to change it here and there to make it more relevant for industry. So those are crucial feedback points. And how they've been surprising us, I guess, it's any open communication that you have with people, when you have this open mind that they say, well, this is a two-way. It's not like we have the key of knowledge and we bestow upon the industry the key of knowledge. Now we are looking at this as truly a two-way partnership. Like we learn as much from them as they learn from us, right? And when they open up and when they talk about their problems, and later on as we start the center, and they will invite us to go in their companies and observe what they are doing, and those are all nice surprises to have. Those are all feedbacks for us that will influence the direction how we are going to do research and how we're going to serve them.
Great. So we've got some questions coming in, which is really excited to see. I'll combine the first two just because I think the first one will actually be straightforward to answer, and I can actually share the link to the center in the chat. But the first question is, what is the best way for interested alumni to get more involved with your program? And the second one was, do you yourself use the Internet of Things in your daily life? And if so, has that given you any insights to the hiccups or problems that technology currently has?
Right, John. So let me answer the first one. What's the best way to interact and to be involved? So I guess the easiest way is to follow the progress on our ppicenter.org. That's where we have put the videos. Well, we had pre-recorded videos, and we also animated interactive discussions. So we didn't record those discussions, but that's the easiest way for you to catch up on what we've been doing since September 1st. Okay, so that's the easiest way, I guess. That's the one of the faster ways. That's immediately you can do it right after this call, I hope. You don't go and start watching the videos while we are talking, but after. But the one that I would personally prefer is for alumni to send me an email. And my email is simple. I can put in the chat window. It's danny.dig@colorado.edu. And if when you watch those videos and your company is already your company has an agenda for pushing Internet of Things, and you have needs and you have upcoming challenges that you need your help. What I would really love is to schedule a discovery session with you and with a decision maker at your company, and that's the best way to get started, is for us to get educated on what are your upcoming challenges, on what excites you, what's your vision for growth when it comes to Internet of Things, and what are your needs, and how have you worked with universities before, or with us at CEO, and that's what I call a discovery session, and that's the best way for us to get started and to get aligned, and that's how we can work together. That's starting with that discovery session. Now on the second question, right? So the second question was whether I use myself Internet of Things and IoT, and yeah, sure. So I have on me IoT, like the watch. Okay, the smartwatch is the classic example of IoT, a wearable, right? It's a thing which is connected to the internet, and it's been affecting my behavior because every day I try to close the circle. So I have a habit to do a certain number of steps and do a certain number of physical movement to stay healthy, right? So it's been affecting my behavior, and I constantly check and I look at the trends. It's been monitoring my sleep, my physical movement. So that is, from a consumer point of view, I'm happy with it. This is the particular one that I have is done by Apple. I don't have any. There's a bunch of other brands that do a very good job. So I'm very happy with this product and with the user experience that I have from tracking my personal movements and sleep patterns and things like that. There are other things like in my home, like smart appliances that are connected, smart meters. And this is an interesting one. We have the smart meters and the water and our water consumption and the electricity and gas and propane and all of that. So think about nowadays, the person from the utility company, they don't have to come and read and they don't have to go in my basement and read the meters. Like everything is read electronically through these things being connected via radio, actually. So they can do readings without actually coming in my house. So that's safer for them, right? They don't have to send their people to come in our houses. It's safer for us because those people probably will be going in hundreds or thousands of houses, and it's more likely to catch a virus from other people. So that's just a practical way how having utilities connected to internet and meters being read automatically. And another example is in my home. I have the AC controller, which is also an Internet of Thing. It's from a company called Echo, right? In Ecobee. So that's another thing that actually looks at the utilities and how I'm using the energy, and it's giving me insights. It's giving me recommendation, right? So those are all practical things that I have in my home that have been directly impacting me or my home.
Great. And that actually you answered by segueing into things that you have in your home. That answered a third question that had popped up. So the most recent question says, what do you see as the most exciting new trend or item in IoT?
Oh, wow. Okay. So is it exciting for me, or is it exciting in what I hear from industry? There would be a good clarification question. I don't know if
Right. Well, I think, yeah,
addressed.
maybe industry. Why don't we start with that?
Okay. So from industry, and I got the chance to talk with more than 100 C-level executives from industry. People like, Ed Bastian, the CEO of Delta Airlines, or Fernando Pereira, the VP of Machine Learning and AI at Google. So people at that level. And when I talk with them, what truly excites them is about how can we move machine learning and AI to give us insights, not about what happened in the past, right? But it's actually to predict what's going to happen in the future. So moving beyond reactive events. Now, so in the example that I gave with the smart home utilities, right? So I can learn about this is when my water bill goes up, and all these meters can determine those events from the past. But the question is, how do we make predictions based on the past events? And now that we collect so much information, how do we make predictions about the future? So when I talk with people in industry, the stories that I collect and people are really excited and are really saving their companies billions of dollars is predictive maintenance. So this is a huge one in industry. When you have this very expensive equipment, very expensive machinery, and, an airplane, for example, right? So you all remember the days when we could fly. So you go on an airplane, and we've been on an airplane, and sometimes the airplane will have to be, you cannot even get in the air because they just discover as we were about to board the aircraft, there's something wrong with the physical equipment, right? So they have to halt, they have to deplane everyone, or they are not even letting the plane go on. And they have to do something to fix that. And I'm grateful for that because I don't want to go on a piece of aircraft that they already knew that is defective, right? So it's helping us, but it's causing the company billions of dollars of loss because of these unscheduled operations. So that's a story that Ed Bastian told me about, how when they started monitoring the GE engines on their Delta airlines, and now they know ahead of time when something, especially as important as the engine, is going to have a failure. They know ahead of time, and they can do predictive maintenance so that while the aircraft is, it's not in operation, they can change and replace those things. So when the aircraft is scheduled to be in the air and to fly, it's fully productive. When I talk with other people from other companies, what everyone is looking, it's looking from, rather than selling you a product, they are looking at selling you a service. So let's take HP with the printers. They are looking at changing their business from, you're no longer buying the printers, you're going to buy printed papers, printed pages. So HP is going to give you the printer for free, especially talk about like an enterprise scenario, like probably even in the consumer space, but for an enterprise, you will never, in the future, you're not going to buy the printer from HP. You're going to buy printing as a service. With Bosch, you're not going to buy the air compressor, you're going to buy the air compression service, right? So now the onus is on the company to make sure that printer or that air compressor is fully functional and it stay in production, because when it's down, the company loses money, right? They're not going to charge you on the compressor, which could be, you know, in industrial setting, millions of dollars. They're going to charge you on how many cubic feet of air you compressed, right? So for them to install a lot of sensors and to do this predictive maintenance and predictive analytics to figure out ahead of time when something is about to break on that expensive machine, they can replace ahead of time, so they keep the machine functioning. It's going to be fully tied to their business model, and that's how they are going to, you know, make money. So that's all. It's all been powered, and this use case is only becoming available through the Internet of Things and through all the sensors and monitoring and predictive analytics that people are excited about. So I hope that answered your question. It's
Yeah,
a
no, that
longer
was
answer.
No, I think my own two reactions to that. It's really interesting because I've seen that model certainly in the workplace of, you know, you're purchasing the printing as the surface, the printer and the maintenance with the printer just happens automatically. It'd be really interesting to see if that comes into the consumer land as well.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that you know, this pervasiveness of sensors and the ability to do these kind of, you know, it's kind of almost mundane, but these maintenance tasks at scales and these predictive, you know, what's going to break down, that used to only be the realm of science fiction. You would see that in, you know, writing like Peter F. Hamilton's space operas, where they would envision societies like that. And now we're moving towards that. So
Yeah.
this next question that we have is kind of a looking back as IoT has evolved. Has there been a single piece of technology that when it arrived really made a big splash or a surprise or shocked the field?
So I'm trying to understand the question. If the piece of technology would have not arrived?
Yeah, it's sort of it's like some new technique or some new technology had a huge impact in this area when it arrived. The
Oh, yeah.
question, yeah, the question says, what piece of technology had the most, you know, most surprised or shocked or excited when it came to be?
Well, I would say it's a confluence of a few factors. So one that everyone talks about and everyone normally agree when I say it's AI and machine learning. So you know, AI and machine learning, people have been, you know, dreaming about this in the scientific community for, 40 years and more. And there's been what's been called, you know, the winter of AI, when there's been all this hype that AI is going to have such a huge impact on our society and, you know, in industrial life and in personal life. And it didn't quite live to that hype. And then, so it went through the dry spell or the winter AI. And in the last few years, you know, it has gained a whole new, it's not a hype. It's not just a hype, or it's not a fad, but it's like, this is a truth. Wherever I speak, you know, I have yet to speak with a company that has not told me that they are investing hugely in AI. Like, I was talking with, just last week, I was talking with the CIO of the largest truck company in the world. And he was telling me what's their need and how you know, they cannot hire enough people. They have so much vision and so many potential applications for AI. And now a lot of that is realizable. It's not, you know, oh, this is a nice academic paper from from 40 years ago, but a lot of this is realizable, and people are making huge progress. So
Yeah, I think
that's one part of the component that I think it's a lot more practical. And I want to say why it's more practical, because the computing, underlying the computing platform, on, you know, doing this at scale on the cloud, and all the computing infrastructure has been enabled some very deep computations that were not feasible before.
yeah, and I think that's true. It wasn't one thing. It was the fact that AI started and had to pause while it waited for distributed systems and big data to scale up so that it had the
Correct.
data it needed to
Correct.
really make the next big advance.
Correct. And then the other thing that is really fueling all of this, so it's the AI, it's the computing capabilities, and now it's all the sensor technology, and then the computing on the edge, or what's called the computing on the devices itself. And the amount of broadband that we have through 4G and 5G, especially, and also through connected through Wi-Fi. But is, you know, even without Wi-Fi access, you know, when you talk about smart infrastructure in a city, you know, on the 5G, they have a what's called a narrowband IoT, which is a specific band of the spectrum, which is allocated for IoT communication for sensors in a smart bridge or in a smart infrastructure to communicate, right? So all of those things have been coming together. So it's a confluence of AI, underlying computing, and also on the systems and the networking and the radios and the Wi-Fi and all of that technology and the sensors coming together. So I think this is a really exciting time to be in this field.
Yeah. So I think we have time for one more question. And this one goes to the impact of the center on students. So can you give an example of how students are being engaged in the center? And I'll just editorialize to say the center is just launching now, but the next part of the question is, are there any success stories like students making a big impact or being hired into the industry that they're working in?
Right on. So I will start with the second half of the question. Are there any success stories? As Ken said, we are just launching, right? So we haven't had yet any numbers that I can point historically. So the National Science Foundation has been conducting these industry university consortiums for, when they started, like 25 years ago, 30 years ago. And I think they are reporting that about 1/3 of the PhD students and the graduate students that are part of the centers end up going and working for the industry members who are part of this industry university consortium. So that's the only number that I can refer to, and it's historically through trends. I can't wait to have this conversation in a year or 2 years from now. I can tell you, this is the number, this is the percentage of our students who are going to be hired and doing internships and having a huge impact on the industry. Now, on what's the success story for our students? It's huge, and it's one of the key driving forces for having this industry consortium. So think about a student that is part of this industry consortium, industry university consortium. They get to work closely with someone from industry. They get feedback on their research. They get access to private data sets that they can only conduct their research using synthetic data or artificial data, but now they get real world data sets from, tens of thousands of trucks. When one of our members is Daimler Trucks, and they have like tens of thousands of trucks and fleets that are collecting data, and the thousands of sensors. So imagine someone having access to those data sets, right? So it's going to make them a fully rounded student. Our students truly, when they go on the job market, will be the students that everyone wants to hire, because they have real world experience. They understand the cultures of companies. This industry university consortium will have several meetings throughout the year where students are really deeply ingrained in having those collaborations and discussions with industry. So our students will be the most sought after people to hire in industry. I want the industry to be fighting for our students, and they will be ready for being successful at the companies. The company doesn't have to put a student. Normally, when a company gets a student, they will have to put them somewhere on the back border, not on the critical path, so that they don't destroy some millions of dollars worth of equipment. Our students wouldn't be that. They will be industry ready. They will know the culture of working with industry partners. They will know the culture of working with the industry members. And when company hires them, they are going to be on the critical path. They are going to be productive on day one.
That's great. And that's a win-win for everyone involved, for sure. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you, Danny, for your time and your great answers. And I'm going to turn this now over to Brennan.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Danny. We're going to put up a slide real quick that shows some research. So not some research, but some ways for you to be able to connect with Danny and Ken if you have more questions or you want to get involved. Thank you to Professor Dig and Professor Anderson for taking the time and joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate our attendees for participating and asking some awesome questions. And we really hope you do continue the conversation with these faculty members and engage with them. So real quick, this event is part of Homecoming and Family Weekends Wherever You Roam. We are offering 2 weeks of programming and ways to engage with CU Boulder, October 12th through the 24th. We're just ending our first week, but we hope you join us for programs next week. Most are free to attend. You can visit our website for more information, colorado.edu/homecoming, and to register. And with that, we hope you have a wonderful Friday afternoon and a weekend. We look forward to seeing you next week. There's some future online events. And thanks so much, and go Buffs.
Yep, take care.
Yeah. Right on. Thank you, everyone.